Michelob Ultra Tuscan Orange Grapefruit. My God, America is imploding.
Right now, in my refrigerator, there are Michelob Ultra Seltzer waters. So they're not quite the Michelob Ultra Tuscan Orange Grapefruits, but they're pretty damn close. Hello. Welcome to Fanzone. We got another debate match for you today in our tournament. This one's going to be very interesting because we got a couple players who kind of had sneaky good matches last season. So I'm very excited. On the desk today with me, we have Brian Michaels. You're here for another judging session. The last time you were here, what a time it was. You're back. How are you doing, sir?
I am here to judge. I'm going to start with you because I'm sorry, but yes, with that in your fridge, you are still part of the problem. Just saying. But I will forgive you because your life is in turmoil. As we can see behind you, it's a sad time. The movies are all put away.
Yeah, it's rough. I got to watch things on Voodoo and Disney Plus and all that. Fuck, I can't use my Blu-rays. It's very sad. Robert, you're here. Welcome back to the judging seat. It's been a couple matches, but you're back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing lovely. I do love judging, whether it's in debate or people on the street, whatever it may be. I'm a judger. I'm pretty much a pro, so I'm here to do it.
That's fair. I can speak from experience. No, I'm just kidding. So Robert, thank you for being here. We have, like I said, interesting match today. We got Richard Schwartz, who is the number 6 seed, going up against Jim Greed, the number 11 seed. The last time we saw Richard, he knocked out Ryan Permison. So that was a crazy match. 3 in, 3 out. He was in and out of that match. It was crazy. Jim Green played Koho. That one went down to the wire. Koho went on to the number 1 contenders match. So that was a very close match. So both of these guys playing very well in their last matches. It's going to be interesting to see what happens today. We're going to start by talking to the higher seeded player, Mr. Carefree, Richard Schwartz. Richard, like I said, in your last match, you knocked out Ryan Permison. That was a crazy match. How are you feeling about today's match against Jim?
I'm really excited. I wanted to play Jim. Jim's a really good debater. Not saying Ryan wasn't. He's also, and Jim's last match went down the wire. I'm prepared for it to do the same for this match. I'm hopefully it won't be, but this will be an exciting time. Jim's a fun dude, and this should be an interesting match.
All right, and then we'll bring in the lower seeded competitor, Mr. Green. Jim, last time we saw you, you played Koho. You talked about Christmas movies a lot. Yep. How are you feeling about playing Richard today?
It feels good to play against Dick Schwartz. This is, I think, maybe the first time I've played against him in anything, so this will be fun. And win or lose, I hope he angrily keeps a list of every time that we've played and the results, like some other people named Nico.
Okay, all right. Well, guys, here's how the show is going to work. We gave the competitors 4 debate questions based on categories that they drafted to us. They are going to debate those questions for the judges. They each get 1 minute opening, 1 minute closing, and a 5-minute free form in between. When the debate is over, myself, Brian, and Robert, we will decide who we thought should have won the question. We will write it on our handy dandy board or phone. If you're in Robert's case, I would assume. So that's how the match is going to work. Gentlemen, do you have any questions before we get into question 1?
No.
All right, so let's get into it with my favorite video on the face of planet Earth. It literally brings me so much joy every time. All right, guys, question number 1 for tonight is going to come in the category of comedy. This was a category drafted by Richard, and the question is, what 2000s comedy should have been great but just wasn't? So Richard, you drafted this category, so you are going to get to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument whenever you start talking.
No, the early 2000s, the whole 2000s were blessed with some really great comedies. 40-Year-Old Virgin, Superbad. I mean, a lot of other comedies. But this particular comedy had School of Rock. But this comedy that I chose, which had so much potential. Number one, it was directed by Harold Ramis, who has done so many great comedies in the 80s and 90s. And the comedy that I chose was Year One. Year One, it had Jack Black at the peak of his power. School of Rock was one of his most defining roles. Even in the 90s, he was really funny during that time. You had Michael Cera coming off Superbad and Arrested Development. He also had cameos such as Paul Rudd, who is really good at comedy. David Cross, really good at comedy. And this movie could have been so good, so funny parody, but it was not funny, very boring, and I'll explain more in the battle.
Time. All right, Mr. Jim, you now have 1 minute when you start talking to open your argument.
I went on the opposite end of the 2000s as compared to Richard. I went with 2002's The Hot Chick. Yes, that is right. I went with a movie that Rob Schneider was in, which just the beginning of my argument is going to be that obviously Rob Schneider being in the movie made it not great. And a big crux of what could have made this movie great is the plot of the it's the Freaky Friday. It's another version of Freaky Friday, obviously. But they did it so poorly with Rachel McAdams, which what you could have been the beginning of Rachel McAdams instead of Mean Girls, but nope, you fucked that up. And then you had 10 seconds. I'm just gonna say that my pick is The Hot Chick, 2002. Let's do it.
All right, time. All right, The Hot Chick versus Year One. I recently got a Warzone question right about The Hot Chick, so all right.
That 60 seconds goes by, 90 seconds go by quick.
Yeah. 5 minutes of free form. I will come in to give you guys a 1 minute warning, and then I will also come in if you guys talk over each other. So please, even back and forth. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
Okay, so Richard, you did mention Harold Ramis was a great director in the 80s and 90s, but basically everything after Analyze This was terrible, and he was very much past his prime. He had The Iced Harvest, which is not good, Analyze That, which is terrible, and Bedazzled, which is ultra terrible, which leading into Year One. So yeah, your boy Ramis was, as they say, washed.
Well, we're going to talk about yours. I mean, Rachel McAdams, Mean Girl, and The Notebook didn't happen yet. So
exactly,
it's a barely new face. So you can't really expect someone as No to be attached to that character. And again, even you said it yourself, Rob Schneider is not that great of an actor to begin with. Even in the 90s, he's just a side piece. And the question is, what should have been great but wasn't? And if you're not expecting Rob Schneider to be good in this movie, you shouldn't have so high expectations. Whereas in my film, you do have Jack Black in the 2000s was really good for him. Michael Cera was really good in the 2000s. Paul Rudd's hysterical regardless in his cameo.
Was Michael Cera great in the 2000s, or did he just have perfectly written roles for his weird?
Well, I agree with you, but a lot of people did like Michael Cera in Arrested Development and Superbad. So I mean.
Which those two things are more strong scripts instead of Michael Cera being great. And then you have your concept never works unless a guy named Mel Brooks or Monty Python, the group Monty Python, is attached to it. Let's take the biblical times of whatever, and then we'll make comedy out of it. It never works unless it's Mel Brooks or Monty Python.
Oh, not necessarily too. It's a parody too. I mean, you also had Scary Movie, which was really good in the 90s, and it was really funny. And also.
Thank you for mentioning Scary Movie, because Anna Faris is in my movie coming off of Scary Movie, and they completely misuse her, and she's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, Anna Faris is probably the most notable person in your film, because like if you're looking through your actors list, you have Rob Schneider, which you weren't expecting much from him. Anna Faris, like I said, probably the only really good one. You have Matthew Lawrence, which you haven't seen since like halfway through the 90s. Whereas if you look at my list for the cameos, you have David Cross, you have Michael Cera, you have Jack Black, you have Paul Rudd, you have Olivia Wilde, who is a great actress on House, which is proven. I mean, you have so many people.
It's not a comedy though, so
Horatio Sands. I know, but
that's not relevant. That's not relevant.
If you're looking at the star power of mine, who are normally good to being funny, and Olivia Wilde, even on House, was pretty funny in her roles. And if you're comparing what you're expecting for actor-wise, comedic performances in my film, you would expect a lot more from my film than you were in yours anyway. So,
yeah, I think one thing that we're differing on is you're talking about like being at the movie theater in 2009 and 2002 versus looking back on it now. Whereas I'm looking back on it to where your plot has no chance of being good, again, outside of Mel Brooks or Monty Python. Whereas mine, it worked with, and it worked last year with Freaky. That's a perfect example of how to do this plot and what kind of actors to use and how to use them. You don't need some terrible Rob Schneider is like a racist Mexican like landscaper that like makes the dad jealous or something. Like you would, I think the concept for the hot chick was much better than year one.
Well, here's another thing. Like we can, whether regardless you can say about Rob Schneider and his performances, at least this was a different range for Rob Schneider, whereas he's playing kind of two different characters, and you kind of believe that he is the hot, like that he's switching bodies with Rachel McAdams. You really do kind of believe it at some point. Whereas if you're looking at mine, Jack Black's just playing the same character as Michael Cera is playing the Michael Cera character we know, and like you said, mine's just not that as funny as it could have been with the stars you have on my movie. Whereas yours, you're not really expecting too much. I mean, Anna Faris was kind of playing Anna Faris' character from the Scary Movie franchise. Rob Schneider is like the side character anyway, shouldn't be a lead.
Right.
And then Rachel McAdams, we didn't know till 2004 with Mean Girls.
That's why looking back on it, whereas you're like saying, oh yeah, you look back and Olivia Wilde was in that. You look back on.
But if you're looking at that time though,
and you go, oh, this is literally right before McAdams goes like to the moon with Mean Girl. You literally had Regina George and could have had Regina George in your movie before, and you're like, oh.
But
no.
During the time when both these movies came out, what were you expecting to be extremely funny? The hot chick that you only have maybe two people you recognize, or year one where you have so many comedic people that you know and love?
Time. All right. Jim, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Richard's whole argument is based off of that he has big names but that are mostly just cameos. So even back in the day, if you're going back to when his movie was released, you just saw Michael Cera and Jack Black, which at that point, after like Tenacious D and like you knew Jack Black's bit and it's not that funny. Whereas mine, you obviously wouldn't recognize Rachel McAdams, but Rob Schneider, who should have been replaced with somebody else, but wasn't. But you still had him coming off of Saturday Night Live, and you had Anna Faris coming off of Scary Movie, which those two are really the leads of the movie. You expected something from it, and from the perspective of looking back on it now, my plot actually has worked in other movies, whereas, again, Richards has never worked if it's not Mel Brooks or Monty Python. You can have your 8 seconds, Tim.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jim. All right. Richard, now 1 minute for you to close your argument when you start talking.
My opponent's argument on mine is that my parody doesn't work other if it was Mel Brooks or Monty Python, which those are examples of it actually working. Those are two examples. And not only that, you have 99 Teen Movie and Scary Movie as other parodies. Parodies movies work. My movie had so much potential comedy star power that it could have made it great, could have made it fantastic. Idiocracy was a movie that was outrageously weird, but it really worked. Whereas even Jim admitted before in The Hot Chick that Rob Schneider is not a good lead. He's a side character, and we didn't know Rachel McAdams at the time before Mean Girls and Notebook were 2004. This movie came out in 2002. So you're not expecting as much comedy as you were, or a great movie as you were probably from my movie year one. And that is the point, is what the question is, what movie were you expecting to be good but wasn't? And if you're looking what has the potential star power, Hot Chick with just Rob Schneider and Affairs, or with Year One with Jack Black, Michael Cera, David Cross, and so many other great talents, I would say my movie is the bigger letdown.
Time. All right. Let's bring in them judges. Boys, do you have your vote? All right, I'm gonna go first. I'm voting for Richard. I think Richard's argument worked better for me in the sense that he basically listed out, the question is what movie should have been great but wasn't. My movie had all of these things and it still wasn't great. These are all positive things at the time of the movie coming out. Jim, honestly, it was really close for me until the closings, and I think Jim kind of shot himself in the foot by saying like Rob Schneider is should have been replaced, and Rachel McAdams, we didn't know her. Those were kind of negatives to me, because then it was okay, so then why did we think the movie was going to be great? So I vote for Richard. Brian, where are you going and why?
I'm also voting Richard. I think that the big thing against Jim's was that he was saying from the beginning, Rob Schneider shouldn't have been in this film. Well, that was the film that was made, so that was the film you had the expectations for. And he was basically, like you said, saying why this film, you wouldn't have had good expectations going into it. Also, I like in the closing when Richard pointed out that he said that Jim said biblical epics don't work unless it's Monty Python or Mel Brooks. And he said, you just gave examples of two that did work. But I didn't hear Jim ever give an example of ones that didn't work. He just said, unless they're them, they don't. So, but my vote goes to Richard.
All right, Robert, your vote doesn't count, but where would you have gone?
I also was going to vote for Richard. You guys basically said it exactly. I think Richard did the best job of selling on the first half of the question. Why did we think it was going to be great? I didn't get enough on the expectations from Jim. I just heard that, Freaky Friday happened, but didn't get quite as much on telling me why, there were big expectations, why we thought it might be good. And Richard, I think, knocked that part of the question out of the park.
All right, so Richard wins the first point, but we're going to move on to question number 2, which is a category that Jim drafted. The category is Disney live action. The question is, who would you cast as Tony Perkis in a Heavyweights remake? Jim, you drafted this question. You get to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
So when I thought of when I got this question, I thought of who is a comedian that that can do their own thing separate from Ben Stiller, but they also have to have the kind of the qualities of Ben Stiller that made Tony Perkis great in the first place. And then I Googled, who's some comedians around now, and none of the men really worked for me. So I went ahead and put an eye on the Tony, and we switched Tony to a woman. And the woman that will be playing Tony Perkis in my new Heavyweights movie is Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig, similar, obviously at this point, is a much bigger star than Ben Stiller was at the time that he made Heavyweights, but they both have that same kind of sketch comedy type of background with some comedic chops to where they can get really deep into a comedic character.
All right, Richard, you now have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Now, recasting Heavyweights for the character of Tony Perkins would be really hard, because I feel like Heavyweights wouldn't be able to be made, because, especially with all the PC, you should make funny kids overweight type of deal. But I was trying to find an actor who can only have a similar appeal as Ben Stiller, but also be different in his own way. Also could be believable that he's running a fit camp. And so I chose Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Dwayne is obviously physically fit. He's also really charming. He's also very athletic. He looks the part, but I think most importantly, what makes Dwayne Johnson probably a great choice to be Tony Perkins is he can make the parents feel, the parents who are dropping off these kids at camp, that he is a good guy, that he is charming, that he's going to take care of their children. And I think Dwayne Johnson's comedic role and serious role and craziness will be a great perfect fit for the remake of Heavyweights. And I can see the rest of my time.
All right. So, Kristen Wiig versus Dwayne The Rock Johnson. 5 minutes free form when one of you starts talking.
Okay. Kristen Wiig is kind of an interesting choice. I think my first kind of complaint about Kristen Wiig being like the Tony Perkins being the villain is we haven't, like, other than Wonder Woman, we haven't seen her do a good villain persona yet. And I don't think, like, the only example I have for Kristen Wiig as being a villain is Wonder Woman, and she did not do a good job. And I just don't think it would translate well in heavyweights.
I think the thing that you're thinking of here is you're thinking of a traditional villain, which Tony Perkins is not a traditional villain, because he's not really that much of like a traditional like bad guy. The way his villainy is more like it's him slowly going insane because these kids just like keep poking him and they're not losing weight and everything is going wrong. So he's slowly going crazy. He doesn't come out of the gate like I'm a crazy person villain guy. It's the fact that he starts off with like being too eager and too like, yeah, let's do it. And then he like slowly becomes like a crazy person, which, you know, she's not great in it, but that's kind of exactly what Kristen Wiig does in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, and that's also like, again, like, I disagree when you're saying Tony Perkins isn't really a villain. Like, he kind of like, I mean, he's nice, he's slow. I can understand what you're saying. He's not like straight up villain, but he is kind of being the villain. He's like insulting like the kids' weights like really, really bad, like in the most like mind fuckery way. Like, it's the best way I can say it, mind fuckery way. Whereas Kristen Wiig, I don't think can pull it off. She has too much of that, like the whole like the type of like her weird laugh, and I think her character would get really freaking annoying because it'd be the same type of character. Like, you were really fat, lose weight.
That's kind of weird that you bring up playing the same character, Kristen Wiig doing the same bit when like Dwayne just plays Dwayne every movie that he's in. I mean, and you know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I don't like Hobbs and I don't like him in the other guys, but it's the same basic. He just plays Dwayne, and with The Rock being in this, like where Kristen Wiig, my thought for Kristen Wiig is in Bridesmaids, when that scene, that's like the best scene in the movie is when she's talking shit to that like teenager, and that's exactly what you need in this movie. Whereas like Dwayne, it's like like when he's talking, it's more like talking shit, and then when he does it to like a Roman in the Fast and Furious movies, if he did that to a fat teenager, it's gonna come off cringy and bullying.
Well,
Wig, it's just like, oh, this is a crazy person that is like stooping to teenagers.
Okay, I will completely disagree. Dwayne does not play the same character over and over. Like, he plays the serious like characters in Fast and Furious and like the Gridiron Gang. However, he has done the playful comedy like in the Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, and Next Level. He's also played a very charming, suave character in Get Smart. He's also played a really funny, hilarious character in Be Cool. And I think the thing where
none of those characters work in a heavyweights movie.
Oh, I disagree. I mean, when you're having a heavyweights movie where the parents dropping off the kids fat, who do you think they're going to like parents be okay with? Because the parents are going to want to meet the head of the camp counselor, and that's especially in this nowadays. Whereas I think you're going to get the charming, suave Dwayne Johnson and Get Smart, and you know, the good-looking guy he is. Whereas Kristen Wiig, like, you're going to get the kind of the weird, quirky kind of sense where it might creep the parents out. Like,
I'm glad you brought this up, because the whole plot of the movie is that the parents just send the kids away, and the parents kind of don't give a shit until like, because Jerry in Heavyweights calls his parents and is like, dude, this sucks. And like, and then the dad's like, I didn't send you to go-kart camp. Screw it. Because Tony buys it from him at the beginning. So the parents don't even know. And when they first meet Tony in the middle of the movie, is he's already gone off the deep end. So
but that's another thing. The point of a remake,
when compared to Kristen, is like more charming that you want to drop his kids off. Whereas like that part isn't even really part of it, because you never even really see like stable Tony meeting the parents in Heavyweights.
But that's the point of a remake, is fitting a movie appropriately during that time. In the time when Heavyweights came out was the 90s. 90s, the adult parents let their kids pretty much do whatever they want in real life, whereas now in the most recent times, parents have their kids kind of on a tight leash. And I think if you want to do it exact same way as the old movie, it's not going to be the same movie. We don't want the same movie. It's a remake. It needs to be somewhat different. Whereas, and then again, I understand where you're going to go with Kristen Wiig, but she has been known to play the similar character. She has not shown that she has that diverse role where she can play a steady villain or a steady different character, whereas Rock, she's
in Saturday Night Live. She plays nothing but different characters.
She plays the same comedic character in the Saturday Night Live sketches.
So does The Rock. It's always the
he's played serious roles, he's played comedy roles, he played villain roles. it's more variety
Time.
from what we've seen.
All right. Richard, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
When you're looking to see who can play a good villain, someone who most people would not think would be a villain, but steadily turn into a villain, you think Dwayne The Rock Johnson fits that perfectly. He has that smile, the charmingness that would keep the parents at ease. And he also can be known to be crazy and evil and get smart and be cool in other movies where he can be a serious threat, a serious good villain in a movie. Whereas Kristen Wiig, all we've really seen her is play the same Kristen Wiig character with the funny laugh. And the one time we have seen her as a villain, which was Wonder Woman as Cheetah, it wasn't really believable. I didn't believe she could be a villain, and I feel like in this time of age, especially in this type of subject, most people will not find Kristen Wiig believable as Tony Perkins, whereas I believe most fans will find Dwayne The Rock Johnson more believable, and I concede the rest of my time.
Okay. Conceding about 10 seconds. We'll move over to Mr. Jim. You have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
So Kristen Wiig has played different kind of roles in like Whip It and Knocked Up. She's played other bit roles and everything, but that's not the point. Richard's like trying to say that like The Rock has more range, which really you don't like. I don't care if he's played like a good villain. That's not the whole point that makes Tony Perkins like a great villain is the fact that he's not really a villain. He's just somebody that loses his mind and is like talking shit to these kids. Again, like The Rock with just his size, like if he's doing his whole like talking shit, sports talk shit to like fat teenagers, like overweight teenagers, it's gonna come off as bullying and really cringe. Whereas like Kristen Wiig she's more believable, like to go crazy on teenagers, and I'll give you the rest of my time as well.
All right. Okay. Bring in the judges. Brian, or are we good? Robert, you have your vote.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, Brian, you get to go first. No, I'm sorry, I lied. Robert, you get to go first because your vote didn't count last time.
Okay. I decided to go for Jim. I think both were interesting arguments. I like both their pitches, but I think it was really close until those closed, and I think Jim's closing really wrapped it up for me. I do think the point he made about The Rock in that role, you know, how the range doesn't really matter, and it would be a little bit cringe. Like I bought with those points a lot, and I think they were made well. So Jim tied it up at the end there for me.
I'll go next. I'm also giving it to Jim. Pretty much for the same reason, actually. I thought both were actually really interesting pitches, but I would actually watch both of those versions. But I think Richard kind of was like homing, like really beating down the like, oh, Kristen Wiig can't play a villain because Wonder Woman. And then, but here's all of the great stuff The Rock has done. And Jim was just kind of like, it that doesn't fucking matter for this. Like we're looking for one thing and she can do that one thing. So that's kind of what did it for me. So Jim gets the point. Brian, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone?
I actually went Richard again. I just thought I felt like Jim fell in the same trap as the first question where he spent most of his time attacking The Rock, but he didn't really give me good support for his argument this time.
All right. Well, we are going to move on to question number 3. This question is in the category of the Wizarding World, something these guys know nothing about. So the question is, which Hogwarts student would you most want to be friends with? Aw, that's sweet. So Richard, you drafted this, so you get to go first. 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Now, obviously Hogwarts isn't real. Magic isn't real to that degree. But if I ever was to ever go, if Hogwarts was real, and if I was lucky enough to be accepted, which of the Hogwarts students, who would I want to be friends with? Who I want to be pals with to have a great time while learning magic? It's quite simple. I am going with George Weasley. Now, I know what you're guys thinking. Why not Fred Weasley? Well, I can only pick one character. And when you get one twin, you get the other one by default. George Weasley is always with Fred Weasley, so we're going to always have a good time. They've been known in the books, Wizard book, to have a great time at Hogwarts, to have fun with magic. they're also very popular at Hogwarts with the Gryffindor. So you're gonna be around the ladies as well. You're gonna be around with the popular people, the fun people, and you're also gonna learn magic. And what better way to have a friend to not only use magic but have a good time and to be popular? It's George Weasley, and I concede the rest of my time.
You don't have to because you ran out of time. So
I concede.
All right, so we'll go over to Jim. Jim, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
So same kind of road there that Richard was taking. If I'm in Hogwarts and I am going to school, I am classically not going to be great at literature and most everything. So when I was thinking of who I would want to be my friend, I thought of the best person at school and magic that I could think of in in the Hogwarts of Harry Potter there, and that's Hermione Granger. Hermione, I feel like also she brings an element of you're going to have fun. Whereas also if you're struggling, which hey, I would be struggling at magic, Hermione's there for you. Hermione literally writes essays for Ron, does his homework. I mean, I'm not saying she's going to do it for me, but like, hey, if I need help with homework, Hermione's there. If I need help with anything, Hermione's there. I suck at magic. Hermione doesn't. She can get us out of the jam because she's awesome at magic and knows all the spells.
Time.
I can see my 1 second, Tim. I can see.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so George Weasley versus Hermione Granger. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
Let me just, I couldn't stop because I do love the Broadway play Wicked, and you kept saying popular over and over. And I think the moral of that play is that being popular isn't necessarily the greatest thing. So just like thumbs down. Who cares about
I wasn't necessarily, popular wasn't my only argument. Just someone who's going to have
fun. You just said it
it's a fun of the perks.
You just said it a bunch.
I know. I apologize for that sense, but Hermione Granger. Look, I mean, like it's really hard because we're two different types of people, and
right.
Going to Hogwarts, you're not going to have the same type of people. But Hermione Granger in the early years, she puts you down. She makes you feel stupid, especially in the first year. She made Ron feel stupid in the beginning.
Ron was stupid.
Still, like when you're going there, when you're brand new, when you're not sure of yourself, you don't want to be let down. You don't want to be put down. You're trying your best. Ron was trying his best, and Hermione was in that condescending attitude, and she's kind of has that condescending attitude throughout the whole 7, was it 6 years?
She's not condescending. She's like, you guys are blissful idiots, which they are. They are. Which again, that's me. That's going to be me. And for you, I do know, of course, we have different personalities, so obviously this question is completely subjective. But you know what you're going to get a whole lot of being friends with the Weasley twins? You're going to get a lot of detention. You know what sucks? Detention. I don't want to get detention. You're going to be getting that shit all the time.
You're saying you're going to get detention, but you're going to be stuck in the library with Hermione the whole time. That's basically detention. I mean, Hermione all she does
was the Quidditch games. I'll go sit next to Hermione.
The majority of times in even the books and the movies, she is found in the library. Sure. Or she's crying in the bathroom because someone hurt her feelings, and she puts you down throughout the whole series. George and Fred. Well, I'm going just George because I just said just George. George helps people. He makes you. He'll joke around with you.
Detention.
Well, no, not just that. He's also a very bright student. I mean, if he doesn't always, he plays playful pranks, whereas Hermione, all she cares about is studying.
No. You can't use the argument that all Hermione does is sit in the library. That'd be like George just does a bunch of fun pranks, but he's also on the side where it's the same thing. Hermione does the studying a lot, but she's on the side. She's like a really fun person.
But George doesn't put you down. George just make you feel like an idiot. And you're saying Hermione does Ron's homework for her, not all the time. Hermione only did that for Ron because she had a crush on Ron, and I'm not the type of person who would want. I want to be able to do my own work, be able to succeed in life.
So do I. But Hermione is like when you feel way too dumb to go ask the teacher, because we all have felt that because we've been in high school and college at one point in our lives, and it's like when you're too dumb to go ask the teachers, it's like, oh, Hermione knows everything, so she can help you. And then just if you're friends with Hermione at as a child, she's like one of those ones to where you're buying the stock low, because her apex mountain, she becomes she works at the Ministry of Magic, and she is like the Minister of Magic at one point. So it's like, okay, that's an awesome friend to have even later in life. Whereas yours, it's like,
Okay,
oh,
we're talking later. We're not
maybe.
talking about later in life. We're talking about in school. And when you first get there in school, first impressions matter. And if you're a kid who does not unsure of himself, who do you want to be friends with? Someone who puts you down, makes you feel stupid all the time in your first year, or you want someone who's going to? Yes, she does. She makes Ron feel like an idiot all the time, and that makes Ron say no wonder she has any fan.
That's
But still, it doesn't matter if it's Ron. That is one person. It doesn't matter if it's just Ron Weasley. Ron is a person. He has feelings.
Yeah, but I'm not Ron.
George has never done that to a student.
What you're saying is, if I'm Ron, Hermione sucks to be a friend. I'm not Ron. I don't care if she's good. She basically has the same personality to me. She's like an introvert that just likes to be to herself, but she's a Muggle-born, so she's just trying to prove herself.
But Hermione also thinks she is smarter than everyone else. George is just someone who wants to have fun. Someone who also good in school. And also thing that Hermione does that George does that Hermione doesn't. George sticks up for people. Hermione only sticks up for people when Harry's involved. George, when Order of the Phoenix, where Umbridge forced people to write their own names in blood, George and Fred sacrificed their last year, and they pranked, and they did it for morale. Hermione has never done anything for morale of the students.
Good for the morale of the students. She shows up when they're all about to fight for their death in the last.
So does George and Fred.
Okay, but you're saying oh, she never does that. Well, she does do that. And your whole thing, you keep going back to this point of oh, Fred and George are the fun class clowns, but on the side, they're also really good students. Well, you can't use that argument and then just say
they are good students. If they weren't good students, they wouldn't advance every year in Hogwarts. So they have to be somewhat decent students. I'm not saying they're great, Hermione level great. They're decent enough to keep passing on.
Time. Oh man, Jim, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Again, I think Richard keeps trying to go back to the point of her in the first year. Hermione's an asshole to Ron when he was kind of giving it to her as well of being a dick. But I'm not Ron Weasley. We're not Ron Weasley. None of the judges are Ron Weasley. So who cares about that? And he keeps trying to say oh, Fred and George have fun. And it's okay, if you're in the little posse of all these having fun and doing pranks, you're going to get detention a lot. That's the thing is they're notoriously known for getting detention and Filch getting on their ass and everything. And it's you know what I like less than my friend giving me shit is having Filch over my shoulder every 20 minutes. I can't go to the bathroom without Filch thinking that me, Fred, and George are doing some shit. And then later in life does matter. The friends that you have all the way through your life, we all have some. We grew up with them. They're still our friends. They're great. Hermione later in life is awesome. George just runs a joke shop. Cool. We've all outgrown school pranks. Who cares? You can have my 2 cents, Tim. You can have it.
Thank you, Jim. All right, Richard, you now have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
We're not talking about what happens in the future after Hogwarts. We're talking about who do you want as a friend during Hogwarts. And do you want someone who's going to make fun of you for your first year, make you feel stupid, always studying in the library, never wanting to have fun? Or do you want someone who wants to have fun, who is good, decent enough student, who, he keeps advancing every year, doesn't flunk out? Or someone who's there to stand by you, who make you feel good about himself? It's George Weasley. Hermione, her growth, I'll admit, her character growth moved on, because of her friendship with Harry and Ron. But that first year, first impressions matter. It doesn't matter if it's Ron. Ron's a person with feelings. Hermione made him feel like crap. And the majority of every single year, Hermione's always in the library. And that's kind of detention. That's basically detention. And again, Jim's argument saying you get detention. There's no proof that George and Fred got detention constantly. They're never really mentioned in the books. And I think someone who's more fun, friend, protective, George Weasley.
Strike George Weasley from the record. Oh man.
Stern but fair. Strike that George Weasley.
But only that last George Weasley. Because I said George Weasley a lot throughout this whole thing.
Judges, are we good?
Yeah.
Brian,
I don't know. I don't know if I'm not happy with my answer. But.
Brian, are you you're going first.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, people are gonna think I'm on the payroll or something, but I actually went with Richard again. I felt like he did a good job of talking about how with Hermione, not only would she be condescending you and putting you down, making you feel bad about yourself, but also how she was kind of a fun killer. She would always be in the library and not wanting to go have fun, things like that. So yeah, I vote with Richard.
All right, Robert, you go next.
I went with Jim, and the reason very, very close. Like, I think this is the closest one so far for me personally, at least. You know, Richard was trying to argue that, you know, he wants to have fun. Jim was basically saying he doesn't want to do homework, and you know, I wouldn't want to do homework either. So if she's gonna help in that regard, that's great. And also, Jim. I just have to point it out. A hilarious line when Richard was like, "Oh, if you're Ron, it's or something about being dumb," and Jim just when he said, "Yeah, Ron was dumb." Like, you know, I'm not that I'm advocating for putting people down and things like that, but you know, Ron deserved it a little bit.
No, he didn't. He's a person.
I'm pretty sure Ryan made a big lot of fun of Jim. Just saying.
All right. Yeah, I get to break a tie. A couple things here. George and Fred put Ron down a lot too. I just want to throw that out there. If Jim had said that, that would have 100% locked me in on Jim, because that happens a lot in the movies as well. The biggest thing against Jim for me was when he started talking about the future stuff. I was like, that doesn't matter. It's not in the movies. But then Richard also was like, oh, well, if we're going there, then they own a joke shop and this. And I was like, okay, well, now those just X each other out.
I didn't say that.
You did. So I'm going to go with Jim. And the main reason why was I do think, similarly to Robert, I think they both were hitting their reasons for wanting to be that person's friend really strong. Like Richard, a fun person or whatever, like George is a fun person to hang out with, all that stuff. And they also are good in school. They would make you popular and stuff. And Jim kind of painted a better picture for me about someone who would just be your friend that would grow as your friend over the course of 6 years or however long, 7 years. And Richard kind of just painted they'll let you do pranks and stuff. And I don't know, it didn't really work for me. So I go with Jim. So Jim gets that point. So it's now 2-1 as we get into the final prep question.
That was a tough question. It's serious.
It's a
very subjective question. That was tough.
And we're getting this next question, so this is going to be fun.
Which this one I know nothing about, so get ready. The next question, the last prep question, is in the category of sports movies. This was drafted by Jim, and the question is, who is the best teammate from The Sandlot? I don't know jack shit about The Sandlot, so this will be very interesting. Jim, you get to go first on this one. 1 minute when you start talking.
So the question itself is the best teammate. I am not even going to debate that Benny is clearly the best player on this team. He makes Major League Baseball, which even if he's just like a pinch runner, he is by far not even close the best player on this team. But the question is teammate, and that is Scott Smalls. Scotty makes all of these kids feel like they are the best. They are the best baseball players ever because Scotty sucks at first. And then the whole plot of the movie is because of Scotty, they lose a baseball and then they spend a summer trying to get it back. And that is for those boys, that is the best summer that they ever had ever. And it's all because of Smalls. You can have my time.
All right.
The classic ending.
Richard, you now have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Look, this is a clear and easy front runner. The best teammate to have in The Sandlot is Benny the Rocket Rodriguez. He is the best teammate because he is not only the best player on the field, but he's also the best player off the field. A great teammate is someone who will inspire you to become better, who will teach you if you're not doing as well to get you better, who is always there for you no matter what. And that is what Benny Rodriguez has done for not only for Smalls, but for the rest of the Sandlot gang. He is always there sticking up for them, sticking up for Smalls, which the rest of the group wanted not Smalls to play, but Benny was the one to to bring him into the group, and that is the best teammate you would ever want to have on and off the field. Someone who will train you, teach you to be better, but to also stick by you when you're at your low. And I will concede the rest of my time until we get to the batting because it's going to be fun.
All right. Guys, 5 minutes of free form when one of you starts talking.
So let's just use a real world reference here. We're going to use football for Tim and Brian here. Jay Cutler is the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. And Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that the Packers have ever had. And if you ask their teammates, they're both assholes. So being the best player and being the best teammate is different. You brought up what Benny does for Smalls, and I'm not going to even disagree with you. Benny is the best, he's obviously Smalls' best friend on the team, but you bring up oh, he does so much for the other boys. What does he do for the other boys in the movie?
When the group of the other baseball kids come to make fun of them, to make fun of the whole game, Benny steps up.
No, Benny doesn't. That's Ham. Ham steps up.
So Benny's also there too. Benny, you can even go if you're going off screen. The other kids recognize Benny's talent, and you could pretty much guarantee that they try to have Benny to join their team. But Benny said no. Smalls did nothing. Smalls' only good character growth was because of Benny. Okay, but you said yourself.
It's Smalls' character growth is because of Benny, but Smalls lets those other kids do the things. Even your example, that whole scene about the rival baseball team, Ham is the one that talks shit to the other kid, and then they play a game and they all kick the shit out of him.
Smalls, before he met Benny, was just a kid who was whining and crying all the time, who could not play ball, who could not do anything, who did not get along with his stepdad, who felt like a loner. And I'm going to bring up the most important point. He brought a baseball signed from Babe Ruth to play in an actual game, and he hits it over the park. No one in Benny or any of this baseball player or anyone who's a fan of baseball would ever bring a baseball signed by Babe Ruth.
That's not.
And so he gets him into trouble. Gets the whole group.
Scotty doing that gets Scotty in trouble. And the rest of the boys, that is the best summer that they ever had because they all come up with different ideas of how to get this ball back, and they all feel important.
No, not everyone had the best baseball. Smalls at that point did not have the best summer. He was worried that his dad was going to beat him, and who stepped up to help him? Who was the first person to step up? That was Benny, who was the first person to step up to help retrieve that ball. And who got the ball? And who's the one who got the ball back from the monster, from the big dog? Who's the one who outran the beast? That was Benny.
There's more to the team than Benny and Smalls. Smalls,
there may be more to the team, but not for this argument. The argument: who is the best? Who you want for the best teammate? It's Benny or Smalls. And compare the two.
There's more than Benny and Smalls. When Smalls shows up, he sucks at baseball. De Nunez feels like Satchel Paige pitching.
Yeah, and Smalls was ready to quit. The
younger twin feels like
let Jim talk for a second.
Oh, sorry.
The younger twin feels like he's awesome. Squints gets to scare the shit out of Smalls with the story of the beat. When they do the camp out, they do that because of Smalls, and then Ham gets to do his s'mores bit. And then all of these kids get to individually feel more important because Smalls shows up. The other kid that they had, he was just good at baseball, and they were like, oh yeah, he was cool to have, but then he left, and then Smalls showed up, and all these other kids felt important. And that's about being a teammate, not just Benny and Smalls.
Do you know who was the person who brought Smalls into the group? That was Benny. So Benny saw that Smalls was alone, and he was feeling left out, so he welcomed him into his group. Even though none of the game wanted him, Benny was the one who brought him in the group.
But Benny wasn't like, oh hey, come play baseball.
Smalls was about to give up, and Benny was the one who didn't make him give up. Smalls only got good because of Benny.
Yeah,
because Benny didn't give up on him.
You're doing the argument of now that I've set my argument, you're doing, oh, well, Smalls is only there because of Benny, but you're still saying, oh yeah, well, Smalls is the best teammate, but he's only there because of Benny, so it's Benny. Benny, even at the point when it's hot as shit, Benny is like, no, I gotta practice my game. I gotta practice my baseball. We gotta play baseball. And the kids are like, no, let's go to the pool. And Benny's like, no, and then they end up going to the pool. That little bit shows you Benny is just somebody that does make the pros, but he's obsessed with baseball. Where the other kids, it's just fun for them.
But with the argument is who is the best teammate, and without Benny, Smalls would be the person who would give up on himself, who would feel alone, who would be by himself, and that's not someone you want as a teammate. Someone who is a loner, someone who doesn't believe in himself, or do you want someone like Benny who will bring you in, who will make you feel great about yourself? This is the argument we were trying to make, and I also feel like that you
of like. Benny makes Smalls more confident in himself. So even though Smalls is the best teammate to all the other boys, Benny is the best teammate to Smalls.
The best qualities are Smalls was because of Benny, and I feel like you kind of forgot that there were other small Sandlot movies, and you could have easily picked other characters from the other Sandlot movies.
That's not the argument. We're not talking about the other Sandlot movies.
We're talking about Sandlot.
This movie.
There's more than there's Sandlot, Sandlot 2, Sandlot 3. There are more Sandlots. You can pick any character.
Time. All right. So, Richard, you get to close first. 1 minute when you start talking.
The best teammate is someone who will believe in you, someone who's also good on the field, someone who make other people feel good about themselves, someone who can make other people better. Smalls, he gets better. He feels good about himself, but only because Benny's there to guide him, to teach him. Benny, if it wasn't for Benny Rodriguez, Smalls would be a loner. He would not be good at baseball. He would feel bad about himself. He would be by himself, not getting along with his stepfather. You couldn't argue that Benny Rodriguez was the main reason why Smalls got better at baseball, got along with his stepdad better. And you're saying, Jim's argument saying that him throwing the Babe Ruth baseball over the field made the best summer. Maybe they're looking about it now, but during that time, Smalls felt like his world was going to collapse, that he died. And the other kids were so mad at him because if you're a baseball fan, sign a Babe Ruth ball. You would never use that. And who was the first person to get that ball back, who helped him get his ball back, who eventually got the ball back from the Beast? It was Benny Rodriguez. He is a great person in and on the field.
Time.
Smalls.
All right. Jim, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
Again, Richard is just trying to repeat that Benny makes Smalls a good teammate, so then it is then Benny. He keeps even repeating what Benny does for Smalls, not what Benny does for the other boys. And of course, at the time when the ball goes over the fence, and for the boys being baseball fans, that sucked. But looking back on it when they're adults, they all still have the memory of that best summer that you can see at the end of the movie, because Smalls has the picture of it. He has the ball that Hercules chewed, and he still has the ball that the boys signed as the fake ball. As well as at the end of the movie, when the fence falls on Hercules, Smalls is the first one to run over there and make the boy, and Hercules licks Smalls, where it made the boys stop being afraid of Hercules and Mr. Myrtle. Smalls is the best teammate for all the other boys in the movie. And all that Richard has done is presented how Benny is the best teammate for Smalls and made Smalls' life better. And he has said nothing about what Benny does for every other boy on that team.
Time. Fuck. Okay. Shit.
Me too.
I saw this movie when I was like 8, and I just remember the scene where like someone kisses someone at a pool or something because they
bit rapey, man. Bit rapey. Not good.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Fuck. This is tough. For me, I don't know if it's tough for...
But regardless, Jim, this was super fun.
All right, I'll start. I think. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go with Rich. Like I said, I don't know anything about this movie. And Jim was telling me that the only thing that Richard was doing was painting a good picture for why Benny was good for Smalls, but then Richard presented other things that Richard does, or that Benny does for the team on and off the field, and then how the positive things that Jim was presenting for Smalls were actually negative things. So it might have all been bullshit. I don't know, but the picture that Richard painted for me painted his character as the better teammate. So I went with Richard. Brian, you get to go next.
As much as I feel like I should throw a vote that way, I have to go by the argument. And for me, this one, again, was Richard. My problem was with with Jim's argument, he was talking about things that happened because Smalls was there. Smalls brought that ball, which is why they had the greatest summer of their life and all these things. But that has nothing to do with being a teammate. I think Richard did a better job explaining why Benny was a better teammate. He was helping teach the players, help support the players, as well as just being a great friend and all those other things. And so I gave it to Richard.
All right, Robert, your vote doesn't count, but where would you have gone?
Also would have said Richard. I think for all the same reasons, right? I think, especially in his closing when Richard talked about, what is a good teammate, somebody who supports you, brings you into the fold, who's just a good friend to you on and off the field. I think he did the best job of arguing that. And also, I can't believe none of you said that they got into the biggest pickle that they'd ever been in. I'm very disappointed that nobody used that line.
Well, to be fair, it's been a minute since I've seen the.
That's fair. They say it 18 times in the movie.
I don't know what that means, but okay. So we're gonna move on to the speed round, the bonus question to decide the winner. So what we're gonna do is I have randomized the categories and picked a category based off that randomization with a question. So I'm going to present the question, then you guys are going to say an answer. You can use your computers if you need to look up an answer. You will have whoever says their answer first will go first in the argument. There's going to be a 45-second opening. Then the other player will get 45 seconds. Then a 30-second rebuttal. Then a 30-second rebuttal. And then the judges will answer. All of us are going to stay on screen for this. Actually, no. Robert and Brian can go away. I'll just stay on screen with you guys to give you the countdown. Okay, so the category that was randomized was a Warzone category. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Action adventure.
All right.
The question is, what is the worst action sequel?
All right, so you said action adventure?
But the question is just action.
Oh, it's just action? Okay. So it can be, it could fit, it doesn't matter if it fits any other category?
As long as it has action,
Has action,
on IMDb,
okay.
I don't care.
Terminator Genesis.
That applies. That works.
Okay, I'm going to go with Taken 3.
Okay. So the question is worst action sequel. Richard spoke first, so he went with Terminator Genesis. I almost said Granny Smith. And Jim is going with Taken 3. So, Richard, you get to go first. 45 seconds when you start talking.
Terminator Genesis is the worst sequel, worst action sequel, because not only is the writing bad, not only is the acting bad, but this movie also erases what the good parts, the best parts about Terminator and T2 Judgment Day, because they go back in time to those time frames and then they change it. So they erase all the best parts of T2 Judgment Day, all the best stuff in Terminator. Like the first two movies are, people say, are fantastic movies, and this piece of crap movie erases what was good about it and makes this piece of crap canon. Jai Courtney is terrible John Connor. Amelia Clark is great to look at, but she is not as good as the original Sarah Connor.
Time. Jim, you have 45 seconds when you start talking.
Give me just a second. I gotta. This will be edited. Okay. So the question is worst action sequel, and Taken is a perfect action movie. Taken 2 is a not so good action movie. And Taken 3 doubles down on everything that Taken 2 did that was terrible, except they also kill Femke Jensen. I think that's how you say her name. The wife. They just kill her and make it this weird thing where Brian Mills is now trying to be like, he's on the run and he's like, his wife has been taken from him. So now he's like fighting the LAPD. And then it becomes this weird convoluted plot with like, now his daughter's kidnapped again. And it makes no sense. Taken 2 is terrible. And Taken 3 is like even more terrible than Taken 2, which is an accomplishment.
Time. Richard, 30 seconds when you start talking.
You can say what you want about how convoluted Taken 3 is, but it's not as convoluted as Terminator Genesis. You're saying, at least in Taken 3, it's not just the daughter, it's the wife, whereas in Terminator Genesis, they're going back in time once again. But at least your movie, they're not erasing the best parts, which was the Taken. In my movie, they erase basically Terminator and T2 from canon. They don't do that for Taken 3 at least. And there is still fun action sequence with Liam Neeson, and there's nothing good about an old
Time.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Jim, 30 seconds when you start talking.
I think that Richard picked not even the worst Terminator sequel. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines is even worse, with worse writing, worse acting from Claire Danes, who is actually a good actress and is way worse. His whole crux of his argument is that the bad acting and the bad writing of Terminator Genesis erases Terminator 2, which that's not really, doesn't really matter in this conversation. And I forgot what else he said, so that's my time.
All right. Okie dokie. We'll bring in those judges.
Sitting down, Robert, now. Yeah. Chillaxing, Robert.
My internet died. I'm back.
Oh, God.
Isn't that Doc? You guys start the argument over again?
All right. Robert, we'll let you go first. No.
It's like laggy.
Are you covering up your speaker?
No.
Okay,
no, no.
now we hear you.
Better? Okay. Sorry. So I am gonna cast my vote for Richard. I think it was close. I think in Jim's closing, he got a little bit carried away, knocking Terminator 3 a little bit too much, and then saying that that the retcon of the first movies doesn't really matter in the argument. I think Richard did a good job of explaining why that exactly does matter, and that it makes Genesis a worse movie because of what it does to the other movies in the series. So that point stuck for me. I'm going to give it to Richard for my vote.
Brian, we'll go to you next.
Pretty much same reasons with Richard. Because I feel like with Terminator, with what Jim was saying about Terminator, how it doesn't matter. It absolutely matters how a sequel fits into the series. And when you have actually made the previous movies worse because you've hurt it because you're trying to retcon and get rid of all the good stuff, that absolutely makes it a worse sequel.
All right, so with that, your winner is Richard Schwartz. I also would have gone with Richard for pretty much the same reasons you guys said, so I won't go too much further into that. Jim, we'll start with you. Didn't quite eke this one out today, but you won a question that you didn't draft, and you won one you did. So that that's how it goes sometimes. How are you feeling about the way the match went?
Salty. I don't know. I just lost in overtime again, and I feel like every time I've played in this debate league, I've always lost in overtime. So it's getting kind of old, but I wish I would have paid Brian more than whatever Richard did.
I just went by the arguments. I'm sorry.
So, Jim, what this means is that you're out of the tournament. And because we only go every other week this season, or this in Fanzone, probably means you won't get another match until late this season, early next season. So you'll have some time off. So is there anybody that you want to play to maybe get another win on your record? Right now, where we stand, you're 2-4. So anybody you want to win or anybody you want to play to try to get another win on the record?
Somebody that sucks. So like Kaleb Koho again, maybe Kaleb Boatman, maybe somebody that's named someone's name that starts with like a C, probably.
Okay.
Like Holtzman, Cam Holtzman, he kind of sucks too. So.
He has not played in this league, but other people that I have that start with a K sound, no, just the Kaleb's. That's it. Oh no, I've got Kirk, but he's the number 1 seeded player. So I don't know.
That?
Kirk Kolakowski, your teammate from last season.
Never heard of that guy.
Oh, okay, fair. Jim, I think you played really well today, but overtime that it sucks when it comes that way, when it comes to the end like that. So but I think you played great. We'll see you later, probably late this season, early next season. Go over to Richard. Richard, another win on your record. You're now 3-2. So you move on in the tournament. Your next match will be actually, we know who your opponent will be. You will be playing Amaru Moses. So how do you feel about that match?
I'm looking forward to it tomorrow. I mean, he's a great game player. I'm sure he's just as good. He's a great movie trainer. I'm sure he's just as great as a debate player. Jim played a fantastic game. He could easily have won this during the final lightning round. I understand Jim's frustration, especially because I do like to tend to repeat myself a lot because I'm not as good with words as Jim is. But I feel like the things I do repeat is the things that needs to be heard and to be, because I usually try to. My repeating the words of my strengths I think are the most important, and sometimes I can't express what I want to say, and so I have to repeat myself a lot. Where I feel like Jim's well spoken, but I felt like the ones I should have gotten, and the ones I didn't is the ones Jim absolutely deserved to get, and he could have easily gotten the lightning round one as well. It was a great match.
Awesome. All right, well, Richard, we'll see you soon in about a month here or so for the next match. So thank you for being here today. Good job playing. Good win. Judges, any final thoughts? Robert, we'll start with you.
No, both great games, and yeah, close ones. Maybe not the most technically sound debate from either guys, but wins when you get the job done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed both debates, and I think most of the questions are pretty close. I did end up voting for Richard all the way across, but I don't want to be one of those guys who throws a vote the other way just to make it fair. I got to go by the argument. 2 points to clean up. Best Bears quarterback, Sid Luckman. Worst action sequel, A Good Day to Die Hard. Just saying.
That's fair. Also starring Jai Courtney. Interesting. He's been in a lot of bad sequels. Okay, guys.
How dare you about Allegiant?
What did you say?
Insurgent. How dare you say that about Insurgent?
Insurgent as well. Yeah, that film is just great. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Fanzone. It's been a real pleasure. We'll be back in a couple weeks here. What is the next match? I can figure it out. The next match is actually
suspense.
It's one of the cuz. We've got Kaleb Koho playing Ryan O'Regan. So that's going to be in a couple weeks here. So be on the lookout for that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back. See you next time.
That's my bad. I was sending a tweet.